Live from our living rooms, it's the second annual Vladi Dadis, brought to you by High Spots and Cheap Pops. Now here are your hosts, Silicon Steve Valley and Vladi Dadis. And now for our third category, Vladi Dadis. This one is always one that I get a chuckle at him, because anytime we get to be a little bit judgmental, always is a good thing.
Yeah.
And of course, Vladi Dadis, let me know what is the very next category here, the 2022 Vladi Dadis.
Oh, how we're going to shade things towards the negative right now. And it's unfortunate, but, this is what causes, helps cause some conversations, if you will. And if anybody knows me, one of the most negative things I'll say is that awful. Something's awful. I just kind of cut to the chase. It is what it is, and that's I'm not saying you're dead to me if I say awful, but it's just So here we go. We have none other than the awful tag team of the year nominees.
And the nominees for the 2022 Vladi Dadis for awful tag team of the year, Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. Yeah. Didn't they lose to 74-year-old Ric Flair?
They did, and nobody's really talking about that enough.
And earlier in the year, Madcap Moss, Baron Corbin, seems like a while since they've been broken up, but they made the list. And then, of course, Ashante, Adonis, and Top Dollar, better known as Hit Row. Vladi Dadis, who is going to follow in the Viking Raiders' footsteps for most awful tag team of the year for 2022.
We have just got to cut to the chase here. The most awful thing that I've seen in terms of tag team is Ashante, Adonis, and Top Dollar.
Oh, the dark horse comes out on top. I'm sure that flop dollar moment from a couple weeks ago has not helped. The fact they don't have Swerve Strickland there certainly does not help. Vladi Dadis, why did Top Dollar, Ashante, Adonis, Hit Row, why did they get most awful tag team of the year?
Oh, and this is something, allow me to say, so we're not being confused with like Triple H homers, right? I have the utmost respect for Triple H. He's like, to me, the most qualified person in the position for any company. However, it's incredible, and it's actually endearing, is that Triple H is human. And this is one of the mistakes. He brought back Top Dollar and Ashante Adonis and brought back Hit Row. Not that anybody was really clamoring for them.
No one cared.
And it just, listen, part of their gimmick is what? Rapping, creating music or something, right? Well, what they're doing is like probably the dollar store version of what the Acclaimed are doing, right? It's not even close, right? And then also they pale in comparison to the Street Profits as well. And they really come off as a dollar store version of that. And that was the same situation to me, like in NXT, other than Swerve. And you mentioned his name. He really tied the room together in terms of that faction there.
Just like that graphic here.
Which definitely ties these awards together. So it's a situation here where I'm so anti Hit Row right now, and I cannot wait for them to be off our television screens.
And Triple H will correct it. If something's not working, he'll correct it. He certainly did it with Ronda Rousey the other day. I did. So did Ronda Rousey make best? I'm surprised she didn't make best promo of the year from this past SmackDown. How are you feeling now? How are you feeling about that, Ronda?
I'm feeling spicy.
Spicy it is.
Ladies
and gentlemen, we are moving right along. The Vladi Dadis by High Spots and Cheap Pops. We move on to our fourth category of 2022 Vladi Dadis, second annual Vladi Dadis. What do we have up next?
Up next, to carry on in the awful categories, we have most awful female wrestlers.
What a segue. That was completely Unplanned. That's how great our show is. Our segues are nailed even when we don't plan them. The nominees for most awful female wrestler of the year: Nyla Rose, Marina Shafir, and Ronda Rousey. And Ronda Rousey might have put the nail in her coffin from this past Friday night. We go to Vladi Dadis, who's going to get the second award for most awful female of the year after, of course, the wonderful Nyla Rose. She's really up for her second one. Wow.
She is consistent. I will say that.
He was barely on TV. But anyway, go ahead.
So anyways, we have none other than Ronda Rousey.
Yes!
Awful female wrestler. I am sorry, but she has regressed terribly. And I say this as somebody who was like, wow, like this was a big deal when they first got her. And I thought there was enthusiasm there and you could see it. Like that first mixed tag team match she did at Mania was like a fun time. It was a good deal. And then it's been all downhill from there. And unfortunately, you could tell that she doesn't necessarily care about being out there. She's kind of mailing it in some ways.
I think she's trying, man. That's why I feel kind of bad for her now, because I've been brutal to her. I think she's trying.
You might have a good point. Maybe I'm just being too critical, but unfortunately, I got to say she's regressed.
Oh, yeah. On
the promos and in the ring somewhat. She hasn't got improved. I'll say that for sure. So I say this, she wins this award, especially with great disappointment, but she's just been awful.
And again, if you didn't see SmackDown this past week, the last SmackDown of the year, did that have it? Was she winning this award before Friday night?
She was definitely, it was like 1A, 1B.
Who was 1B? I'm assuming Nyla.
Maria Shafir.
Well, I'm glad you were going to give Nyla Rose a little bit of a break. They should be on TV more. No? What do you think?
No.
I'll tell you what. All right, well, we're moving right. I love that. I cannot agree with you more. And if you haven't watched it, just go back and watch her promo. We're talking about Ronda Rousey when Charlotte Flair, and I don't want to discuss anything about Charlotte Flair during this episode, but wow.
So, before you move on, I got to say, I'm picking up on something, and I'm realizing that, like, with my crack staff and production team, that I might have to considering I'm picking up, like, you're a little bit of a Nyla Rose apologist here. I might have to rename most awful female wrestler to the Nyla Rose Award next year.
No, that's not nice. She's a nice person. She's a nice lady, and she's not on TV enough for me to really. I don't think she's a big enough name.
She's always on the running.
Well, I'll tell you what. If she wins one more, she has to win one more. You can't just win once.
Okay.
Is that fair?
All right.
You got to reprieve. But yeah, Ronda Rousey. First, she said, "Whoa, you want to challenge her at SummerSlam?" Meanwhile, we're in December. And then she says, "Oh, wait a minute. No, the Royal Rumble. That's Sumer." and Shayna Baszler's trying to talk over her to cover her shit. Because Shayna Baszler's actually a good professional wrestler. And
she should be getting at least 1.5 times pay anytime she's out there with Ronda.
Oh my goodness. She should honestly do most of the talking too. It's get a manager for Rousey. What's so hard about that? Do with her like you did with Brock Lesnar. We said that in the beginning. But anyway, I couldn't agree with you more. And what's worse is, again, I think how much of an impact you're having on the show. Like Baron Corbin, I don't know if he won most awful last year, but he would have won the award, my personal award, a couple times. He's always on the show, though. I always have to fast forward him, or I always have to sit through a segment if I'm watching it live. Ronda Rousey, same thing. I haven't watched a lot of her segments. I actually was watching SmackDown Live, and Vladi Dadis, I couldn't agree with your award more. I literally laughed out loud twice during her promo because it was so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really disjointed. It was disjointed. It did not feel professional, and it just and you could see like Shayna Baszler like trying to carry her through and pull her through to the right side and like how to handle, like it was just not a good segment.
So Ronda Rousey, how do you feel about winning most awful female wrestler of the year?
I'm feeling spicy.
She feels spicy.
I'm feeling spicy.
Thanks for watching High Spots and Cheap Pops, and check out for part 3 of the 2022 Vladi Dadis. And hit the subscribe button, won't you?